like every Thanksgiving we would go hunting
Yeah.
on Thanksgiving Day,
Oh yeah.
morning and evening.
That's when all the family would get together and all the boys would go out.
A bunch of boys. We had 9 boy cousins.
Oh yeah.
Tons of boys,
Packed
all
into
the same
60
age,
acres basically.
and we just hunt. We'd hunt them. I mean, we'd hunt them, and it was like guaranteed that somebody would shoot.
Somebody's shooting a deer.
Somebody would shoot, because everybody was in every nook and cranny of the woods. Every nook and cranny.
And there was no like, okay boys, we're only shooting 6s and up.
Yeah. If it's brown, it's down.
Seriously. I got it.
Oh.
Sick.
Okay.
Okay, cool. So there you go. Got him.
So Big Al Hicks is in the house today.
Yeah.
My brother.
The original.
And we
original.
got some things we need to talk about, and I'm excited.
Yeah, man.
It's cool because I think we did a good job throughout the season anticipating and prefacing this day,
We did.
right? Like
Yeah.
we talked about, Al, that you bought his compound bow, that this was your
Which
first.
I'm stoked about. That I like that bow quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, let's start from the very beginning.
Okay.
So like,
If you don't know where
so
you're
Al's
going,
my brother.
go back to the beginning.
So Al's my
I
brother.
planned this whole thing, by the way. I totally screwed up. I was going to drink the first sip of coffee you gave me and be like, a little heavy on the sap there. But it's too late now. Ruined. Go ahead.
It's too early.
No, but back to the beginning. I'm talking like, what is your first memory of hunting? I got to imagine it has something to do with Grandpa Hicks.
Oh, yeah,
But
for sure.
in a general sense, you're our guest today. You're my brother.
Yeah.
You're a year older than I am. Like, what is your how do you remember being introduced to hunting? Like, give that. I know we've talked about it, but we've never really kind of spelled it out. And I think it would be good for everybody listening. It'd be good for everybody in the room. Just
Context.
give us some background.
Yeah. So, I mean, we were both introduced roughly around the same time, being so close together. But I remember, I think I had one junior hunt before you did or something, and I probably felt really good about that. I had a few moments in life where it was like, "Oh, your brother's not quite old enough for that yet," and I was like, "Absolutely not. He's such a loser." But I remember never seeing anything at all. And some more context: we would go camping with our cousins growing up near Lake Michigan, and we would always go on these snipe hunts. And apparently snipes are real, but I never knew that because we literally never caught one ever. So we would
That's a true story.
my grandpa would lead us through the woods, and he'd be like, "Okay, so here's how we get one. You got to go here, snipe, and then you got to collect your rocks together, and then you have to get your Meyer bag, and then rattle it from the inside, and then he was really good at got one, and he'd make the noise with the bag popping, and you're like, oh, we got one, oh, we got away, oh no, and so we never got one, but we went snipe hunting all the time. And that's kind of how I thought deer hunting was too, because I went for years and never saw anything.
It almost feels like, because that's real. We used to go snipe hunting. I don't know. Have you guys ever heard of that?
I don't even know.
Is that even a thing?
About.
Yeah,
A snipe's a bird.
Yeah, that's a thing in the movie Up.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Really?
He uses as a joke in the movie Up. I thought that was totally fake.
So
That's real?
no. So yeah,
it was real.
I wanted to. Yeah. So I almost felt like it was like a Santa Claus thing. Like it was like a bad joke.
I was going to say, we need to fact check that. Pull it up on the TV or something.
Yeah,
Snipe?
Snipe hunt.
I'm really that shocks me that's what you brought up.
Because I had, we saw deer when you're driving down the road, you might see a deer. So I knew they were real. But then we went out in the woods and I was like, yeah, this really is starting to sound fishy, after years of not really getting anything. When you started hunting shortly after, you had some pretty early success. Maybe not as far as trophies, but just getting a deer. And I was like, And I remember Grandpa felt bad for me, so he took me with him a couple times to his special stand, and it was totally nothing like we would go buy from the store. It was he built it from built it with he literally built the ladder. Didn't even buy a ladder and throw it up and then put a platform. He's he built the whole thing.
Yeah.
So we're up there, and I'm like, now I'd probably be freaking out, is this thing gonna fall? But at the time, I totally trusted him. So we're up there, and his whole mission was I'm gonna make you see a deer and get you one, so you feel good about hunting.
Yeah.
And
Get you hooked.
he got so mad at me because in my younger self, I just could not sit still. I couldn't be quiet. So he got really mad at me a couple of times of why are you always humming? Stop your humming.
Yeah, he would hum. Al was a Hummer.
It's so
Very musically gifted.
So this all kind of like
Al was a Hummer.
So I used to get really mad because I'd be like, Dad, like I want to get up with all the cousins and go to Grandpa's house and do the whole thing. Like I liked the way our family did it, but I really want to shoot more than I want to like sit there and hunt. Like, can we go shoot the guns? You know, that was always me. And Nate was like,
How old were you at that time? Like, where you remember thinking that?
Probably 10 or 12, somewhere in there.
That makes really good sense to me.
There's a specific memory about shooting guns. That was Alex's thing. Like after the hunt, Grandpa,
It's
Dad,
like, can
me,
I pop one off now?
like we'd always go back to the car and we'd shoot the gun. Like we'd shoot a tree, and it was like almost like a reward for going in a way. It felt like if I had to like put words to it now, but I'll never forget it. Like I was still not shooting the gun. Like I wasn't old enough for whatever reason. We were like young, 4, 5, 6, something like that. And Al shoots. And my grandpa Hicks, he's no longer around, so like this is a fond memory of that.
Yeah.
I don't think I've really ever shared, but I've shared it with my wife. But like Al shot the gun, and there was a log behind him.
Well,
like,
Grandpa
behind his
actually
feet.
suggested that. He's like, use that as like support yourself. Put your foot like on the log, and that'll be like your brace.
Is that what it was?
And it seemed like it made sense.
And this was a break open. So you pull the trigger guard backwards, and the gun broke open. So it was a single shot, and it was a 20 gauge.
Mm-hmm.
And we threw a slug in there, broke it in, and Al shoots, and it just pummeled him.
Oh yeah.
And he goes back and he trips over the log, and the shotgun breaks open, and there's smoke coming out of the. And my grandpa was, I just remember like it was, he goes, ah, 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 just like laughing like out of his mind because Al just got chucked by this 20 gauge.
It's one of those things. I think he did it on purpose in hindsight, like the whole tabletop thing with the tree. But he was like, "Yeah, put your foot right on there; it'll be great."
And I remember like he picks him up by the scruff of his neck, like, "Oh, you're fine, son." Just you know,
I'm like shell shocked, like, "Oh my, what just happened?"
literally shell shock.
But yeah, so that was kind of my experience, and I literally never got a deer over there. All the years we hunted by Grandpa's house at Abrahamson's there. Maybe I shouldn't have said the name, but
that's fine.
Anyways, it was bad. So it culminated in one year where you guys were like, we're going to do a deer drive for you. You're going to sit down by the little creek on a bucket. That we did a lot of bucket hunting with Grandpa. Mm-hmm. And so he's like, you're going to sit on this bucket, and we're going to go way down to the other end, and we know where they bed, so we're going to drive them down towards you. Just sit right there. I'm like, cool, no problem. Well, the way we always did it was like all the gear, we didn't have our own gear. We used Grandpa's like old stuff.
Yeah.
So like all the cousins would just go through it. And so if you weren't like first up, which shocker, I wasn't the first up, you might not get the best gloves or whatever. So I didn't have the best gloves. And I was like, man, I think there's another pair in the car. And after like 30 minutes, an hour, and I was literally like, I could see the car. I could see the truck. I'm like, it's right there. Okay, I'm just going to go grab some gloves quick. I'm right back. I'm standing by the truck. I just shut the door with the new gloves on, and a deer, like multiple deer run right by my bucket. So, and this is, I probably shouldn't even admit this, but
you should. This is the best part.
I was young and dumb and like pissed that I wasn't where I was supposed to be, and so I like turned and like I'm on the road, but I like walk across the road. Technically, it's somebody else's property, and I like took like a shot at it from like running directly away from me, like 200 yards away, nowhere close, I'm sure. And so they all hear the gunshot, and they go, "You get him?"
We were like, "Yeah." We come through, and we're like, "You get him, Al?" Like we saw him come, we saw him go right by that bucket.
And there's not really a lion bone in my body, so I told them the truth. Like, no, I got cold. I went to go switch out my gloves.
They ran across the field and I popped off. Yeah.
So like, I don't think I hunted for a while after that. I think that was the last one for a few years.
What age was that one, roughly?
Young.
12, 13.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there.
Like to the point where we shouldn't have been hunting alone with a gun legally. You know what I mean? We didn't follow those rules. I don't know.
You're on the bucket on the other side of the thicket from Grandpa.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah. We were all within, a couple hundred yards kind of thing. So right here, we'll be back kind of thing. We're going to drive them to you. We'll see in a second.
But I mean, that really was the style that we were. I mean, I try and like, I don't want to forget the past, and I don't want to.
Yeah.
It's like very important. Like, but the generation that taught us was very old school, right? They were do-it-yourselfers. This was like at the time you said like built. Like they built the stands, the blinds, the ladders. Like that's when it, like hunting elevated just became legal. Like
That's
in that time,
wild.
it's just at that time, right? And so you're painting the picture perfectly. That's exactly what I wanted you to tell. But it's like
They built the stand.
oh yeah, there was one specific stand. And again, this is, you said it, like this was somebody else's property. So my grandpa had 40 acres down the road. Guy he went to church with had a couple hundred acres. We went down there, and it was like a thing. We didn't even,
Yeah.
we're gonna go down hunting this day, after Sunday church today. It was like one of those kind of things, and you didn't really necessarily need permission. Like Grandpa
It's
would
Larry.
keep, Grandpa would keep a shotgun loaded
In the truck.
in the back of the van.
Yeah.
Little Chrysler minivan that he drove around, and I remember he had me do that one time. We were driving down to go hunting at this spot, maybe a mile down the road, and there's a deer standing in the middle of the field.
Oh, geez.
There was a cut. There was a cut cornfield, and then there was still standing corn, and this deer was like obviously out in the middle of the cut corn, and then it was going to go back into the. And he get out and grab the gun, and I went out. I'm like 12, and he's like, go out there and just crawl towards it and then shoot at it. And I got out there like 20 yards, and I'm like on my hands and knees, and it starts kind of like. Doing one of those, and Grandpa's just sitting there with the flashers on the highway, and he's got like these crappy binoculars, and he's looking, and he starts kind of trotting a little bit, and I just stand up and blam off a couple times, but like that was like the style, and we were brought up in that, and we've gotten much more technical. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like that's something that I mean, bow hunting like wasn't something that.
Yeah, we didn't do
Grandpa
that back then.
It was shotguns and sitting on buckets and deer drives. I mean, that was it. Walking through areas where you knew deer would be and push them to your buddies. We all sit till about 9 o'clock, and then you'd start walking around. That was like how we learned to hunt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now I know, when the women folk are like, hey, you have this much time left to the adults, and all the kids are like, we're going out. It's like, okay, boys, it's 10. They're expecting us back soon. Deer drive time. Like one last ditch effort on the way back in,
And like, I remember too, like every Thanksgiving we would go hunting.
Yeah.
On Thanksgiving Day.
Oh, yeah.
Morning and evening.
That's when, all the family would get together and all the boys would go out.
A bunch of boys. We had 9 boy cousins.
Oh, yeah.
Tons of boys.
Packed
all
into
the same
60
age.
acres, basically.
And we'd just hunt. We'd hunt them. I mean, we'd hunt them. And it was like guaranteed that somebody would shoot.
Somebody's shooting a deer. Yeah.
Somebody would shoot. Because everybody was in every nook and cranny of the woods. Every nook and cranny.
And there was no like, okay, boys, we're only shooting 6s and up.
Yeah. If it's brown, it's down.
Seriously. It was so pure though.
It's
and we
different,
talked about it. Like hunting was a lot more fun when you didn't worry about the wind and you didn't worry about what size the antlers were.
It's just a different generation.
And I almost kind of miss it. I honestly do.
You know that stand I moved out here? I learned this the other day. That double stand that was my grandpa's that I was all excited about. I was telling him that I moved it out here. And he goes, that's not a double stand. I said, yeah, it is. He goes, well, it didn't used to be. I said, what do you mean? He goes, they didn't make double stands when I bought that thing. I cut that son of a bitch, moved it out, and welded it. I made it a double stand.
Nuh-uh.
He welded that into a double stand.
That's sweet.
Like, it's old.
That's phenomenal.
So I was like,
you just shot your best bow buck out of it this year.
yeah.
That's
awesome.
We need to bring your grandpa on and just talk to him.
But like, it's that generation. Like, it wasn't a double and he wanted more room, so he just cut it apart and made a little more room.
Duh.
Or like,
of course you would.
Or like your grandpa just built the tree stand.
Yeah.
Like first time I went hunting with him, we just went and picked a spot and made some brush into a ground blind, and that was it. We walked out there, sat on a bucket, and
so like the bucket thing,
different.
like in the tree stand that he built, he'd open the bucket, like there's like a lid that you could buy that snapped on, right?
Yeah.
I don't think he bought it, but
Yeah. Found it somewhere.
open up the bucket, put a couple of screws into the deck, put the cap on.
Yeah, of course.
Hey, he'd sit on that bucket. That was like what we'd sat on. And guess what he put in the bucket when he left? Pair of gloves. Of course. Why wouldn't you do that?
Had it all thought out.
Stays dry. You don't even have to, perfect. I just thought that was beautiful.
I like that.
So let's move on in time. So, you just kind of laid a foundation for yourself that doesn't give you a lot of credit. So I'm gonna reel you back in.
Okay.
You're kind of known now as like a killer.
I mean, I feel like I got to make up for the lost time a little bit.
So like, I mean, when we go hunting, if we're fortunate enough, it's a couple of times a year. Like, but you kind of have created this profile of yourself that you're an absolute killer. Like, you go in the woods and you come out with me almost every time.
Well, when it comes to Eaton Rapids, yeah. At this point, yeah.
So like I want to share one story.
Yep.
This is kind of what I thought that this podcast would be, just a lot of storytelling, and it's exactly kind of what I'm envisioning. But we went out to we used to hunt over at Brian's, and I'm hunting this spot, kind of like into this thicket. Okay, my brother, I was hunting this place hard. I mean, I'd been there a handful of days in a row, and I remember you'd come out. I think it was just starting to be gun season, somewhere in the November 15th, 16 range. And do you remember this, where I was back in that meadow and you were just on the outside fringe of this thicket area? And so we were hunting, like when we were up in the stand, we could kind of see each other's orange hats. And it was maybe 200 yards max.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yeah.
And you were hunting with a pump shotgun. So you had 5 shots, 5 slugs.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember, like,
I think I know this story.
and I'm creeping in, and it was just one of those nights. It's just beautiful. It's like anything could happen. You're in a thicket, in a swamp, November 15, 16. Like, this is a great time to be alive. And I remember, like, I'm creeping through this really thick stuff, and I get up into my stand, just getting settled, and, like, it's 4:30. Like, 6 o'clock is dark, something like that. And all of a sudden, and like I'm just sitting there kind of like reminiscing and just kind of like getting into the stand, settling in the stand. And I hadn't actually started really hunting yet, and honestly. Like, it just felt like we just settled. And all of a sudden I hear boom, 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 like that fast. Like that fast. It was like boom, 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 boom. And I'm like, I was like, that couldn't be Al, because he's using a pump shotgun. I'm like, there's no way he could do it that fast.
Oh, yeah.
That was my first instinct, was like,
That was a semi-auto.
I was like, if that was Al, like he was boom, 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 boom.
That's exactly what happened.
So that was me. I didn't even, you like text.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't
Was
do
that you? Was something like that?
I don't
Deer down
think-
or something?
I didn't even do that because I was like, there's no way that was Al. Had to been the neighbor right over here.
So
Like,
one of you, either you or Dad was like, was that you? Yeah.
I could just see you like,
son. Like, so tell
Al.
that story, because that kind of like that's kind of towards the beginning of like you go into the woods, you come out with me, like that. That's like the beginning of that
chapter.
Yeah.
that chapter of your life.
So like going back to what I had said, like I hadn't hunted in a long time since going back to the truck to get my gloves thing. So my first deer after that was years later, and I was actually kind of proud of the shot that I took. Like it was in Eaton Rapids, was my first deer ever. Not at that property, at a different property. And it was like a 70-yard like open sights shot with it like quartering away. And I wasn't even thinking about, man, it's quartering away. So now I think about that. But then I was like, yeah, I'd like to think that I'm an okay natural shot. And so I made the shot, and you were like, wow, that was like not an easy shot. And I was like, I guess it wasn't. I guess I'm kind of good, man. That's crazy, right?
You did that specific shot. It was a you thought it was a doe, but it was a spike buck. And just clobbered it from like 85 yards with like this open sight deal. Like, I remember that.
Yeah.
Incredible.
And so that was my first deer ever. I'm flying high. And then I think it was a season went by. I didn't get anything. Didn't really even go that much. And then that second year I was like, oh man, I gotta get back out there. Like I can't get held scoreless again. And I still feel that, today too, a little bit. But anyways, so then that's my mindset going into that hunt, was like Nathan had been way more like, okay, I'm getting out there. And I was like, I got to make the most of my amount of time here. Cause like, I gotta go back to reality like tomorrow. Like this is my time right now.
Yeah.
And so I went in there, and it was not a very big deer, but it's the only deer I saw. And so I was like, okay, I'm doing it. And I was definitely, because of that mind space, like rushing it. So the first of the many, many shots was a wide open, not moving broadside. Turns out like after I got down, like I saw that I skimmed its belly. Like you could see like the fur on the bottom. So I just missed it low. So I think in the moment I knew, oh no, I missed it low, over adjusted high, blew it over its back. At this point, it has no clue where I'm at. It's just freaked out. And so it turns towards me thinking it's getting away, but it's coming right at me. And so I rack that third one in, and it like sees this like log in this trail. So it bounds over the log. And while it's in midair, I just blow its head off. I'm not proud of it. It's bad shooting. But
I remember because like,
so I didn't use all 5. So I went bang, bang, turns towards me, bang. But it's like, and I'm not experienced. I don't know what, like, I'm pretty sure I hit it, and clearly its head's blown off, but I didn't like know that at the time. So it's like still moving, and I'm like, oh no, put it out of its misery. So I got down, and it was still moving. I'm like, so that's when I popped off the 4th one, and you guys were like, what the heck?
at that point, I think I called you, and you were like, yeah, I got it. He's down, and so I came over. And I immediately like you skull capped him.
Oh yeah, like I'm like I didn't even wait to get down. Like I got down and like I freaked out and like put it out of its misery. I thought, but it was totally dead already. And so I'm just standing over top of it. You guys are probably thinking, oh, we're gonna have to track this thing or something.
That's why I'm dying is because I remember.
Yeah.
And I got that picture of Al. Look at that picture.
Yeah, it's bad.
I remember the reason I'm dying is because you called me that evening, and it was maybe right as you walked up on that deer. And you were like, holy shit, Al. You're like, dude, my brother's skull capped this dog.
I'd never seen anything like it.
So, yeah, not proud of that, but it happened. And so I was like, and it wasn't a very big deer, and I'm a big guy in the first place. So, like, you know, I was like, okay, I'll post it on Facebook, whatever. And I never have heard the end of it from my father-in-law. He's like, wow, so you shoot dogs? Like, that's how small that thing is. Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that kind of went into, again, like another, like, I don't know why, just my young mind was like, cool, I got one. So then I like kind of relaxed, and I was more picky the next year. Didn't see anything, you know, didn't get one. And then that next year, that same pressure came on back. Like, oh, I got to do that. You know, I got to get another one.
Wait, so hold on.
Where do you think that pressure comes from?
Explain the pressure too, because I'm not.
Because you said you still feel a little bit of it today.
Is it just brotherly, like to one up each other? Is that what you're saying?
So I enjoy the hunt, I really do. But there's a huge part of me that's like, if you didn't actually see anything or shoot something, you kind of wasted your time a little bit. It used to be like I would go out a handful of times a year. So there was like, you got 3 hunts and you got to get one. And if you don't, you failed, right? And now I go a little bit more than that. But so
you go a lot more than that.
A lot more than that. But yeah, I don't give up as easily now. Now it's like, okay, I've gone 15 times in October, and I've got another, 10, 15 coming in November. So now it's like I have more opportunities, I guess. But yeah, I definitely feel that way. Like if I get pickier after I've gotten one, I guess. I'm really just looking for bucks at this point that are of decent size. Because of my next story, basically, because I finally got on the board with like a good sized buck. And so then that next year I was like very picky. Like, yep, there's no reason, I'm good. I got 2 last year. I got my biggest buck of my life. Okay, I'm gonna like try to be more picky. But in that next year, that pressure always comes back. I'm like, okay, now it's time to kill again. It's like, I don't care what it is.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It's just how I think, I guess. But
so this is we're in chronological order still. So
yeah,
Al came on. We did probably one of our best podcast episodes.
Just the brother one.
The brother where you came on at one point. I had interviewed you in your house, and it was the story of those 2 bucks.
Yeah.
And I think what was the title of that? It was a really good podcast.
I don't remember.
Just keep hunting.
Keep hunting.
Kind of reminds me of like Dory from Nemo. Just keep swimming, but just keep hunting.
Just keep hunting.
Yeah,
I'll
I'll link that down in the description as well.
Yeah, because that one was like a roller coaster for you.
Yeah.
Give us just the cliff notes. Don't go into it too much, but just so people maybe want to go listen to it. But just chronologically, I think we're in that. That's the next hunt that you had, right? Or successful hunt.
Yeah, part of it's like part of the pressure is like wanting to prove it to myself, and some of it's because, you've had a lot of success in hunting, and so it's just one of those things that's like, I don't want to just go out there and, I went out and didn't see anything. Like, I hate that. So it's like, so that pressure kind of is part of what I go through, I guess. But so I'm still inexperienced, right? So I got first deer, second one skull capped. And so I'm like, okay, so I'm starting to get some deer, but I'm still not like experienced. So I don't even really know what so a headshot goes right down. The first one I shot was more of like it was almost kind of a perfect shot, really.
Was it more of like a neck?
It was like a neck-ish, but lower.
You hearted him, yeah.
Hearted him, so went right down. I'm like, oh, that's what deer do, right? So then this this next buck comes out. It's my biggest buck ever. And he comes down this hill and he's rutting hard. And I'd never seen a rutting deer either. Both the other two were not rutting. One was a buck, but the other one was a doe. So I was like, okay. So he's got his head down. He's hauling down that valley where we hunt in Eaton Rapids. And
yeah, that's why this story's so good. That's exactly, I don't know if the listeners caught that, but like he's basically saying the first 2 deer that he'd ever shot, he shot them and they dropped down.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was one other deer I
important
shot in my life too, actually, in Jackson.
And so I'm just giving a little
and they
more.
all went down though.
This valley, a doe came through. Hour later, biggest buck of your life comes through.
Yeah. Yeah. So this deer comes down, and I didn't even think about trying to stop him really. And then I kind of remembered like you had probably said something like in the truck, okay, like if you see one, try to like merp him, I was like, okay. And I don't even know what a deer sounds like at that point because I haven't done my research basically. So my merp was probably like really bad. But anyways, so he comes around like behind this pine tree, and I'm like waiting for him on the other side, like, oh, I see him coming. And he comes out, and I go, whatever awful merp I did, and it worked. He stops, and at that point, I'm like shitting my pants, like I didn't want to rush it, but I didn't want to like wait either. I'm like, well, so if you merp him, does it scare him, or is he gonna start running? Like I had no clue what I was doing.
Is this the same pump shotgun
Yep.
open sights?
Same exact gun, same exact stand.
Yep. And I think it was Grandpa's. I want to say it was Grandpa's screw gun. My very first deer was for sure. I'm not sure if this day was. But
That's why it was impressive, yeah. So explain that now. So there's a shotgun,
We talked about it on a couple podcasts ago.
Winchester.
With your dad, I think.
The iron sight, like this part,
Yeah.
not this part, but this part where you're lining up the barrel.
Yeah.
Like that had broke off, and Grandpa put a flathead screw
Yep.
in there.
and epoxied the crap out of it.
Yeah. So he's looking down.
So I'm
Down the
looking
screw.
down the flathead screw to the bead at the end. Anyway, so he comes up
Biggest
from
buck of
behind
your
this
life.
tree. So I'm like, okay, I'm waiting for him to come behind this tree. Okay, he comes out. I merp him. He stops. I'm like, is he gonna take off running because I scared him or whatever? So I'm like,
He's broadside.
so I've got all the time in the world, but I'm wasting it
broadside.
because I'm thinking, oh, what do I need? So I took like a kind of in my mind a rush shot, but I'm sure it wasn't. And goes taking off running, like sprinting past down the pond, up the hill on the other side. I'm like, I missed him, and I was like just distraught because it was the biggest buck I've ever seen.
This was November 16th.
Yeah, and so like I'm like basically grown man in tears, just like, why do we even hunt? I suck. I'm selling my stuff. Like I think I either texted or called Dad and said something like that. I was like, I'm selling all my stuff. You want my gun? Like I'm done. Like
Yeah, but you were serious though.
I was pissed. And so anyways, I think you said
We've all
something-
been there though. Like, why do I even do this? I'm selling all my stuff. Everybody's been there at some point.
Yeah, I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
it's
I've
over.
been there.
And you and Dad both were like texting me like, okay, just sit. We'll go look for it.
Just keep hunting.
Yeah, just keep hunting, right? And it probably wasn't even 30 minutes later, and I'm still like kind of going through it, but I'm like not actively crying anymore like a child.
You're at that point, you're 100% convinced you missed that deer.
100%.
And you literally, you cried.
So there was,
Oh, yeah.
there was no, I'm gonna get down and blood trail this thing. It was like I missed
No.
him. So
He ran off because I'm like, he didn't drop, so he's
and Dad and Nate are like,
And he
just-
didn't, like-
I'll just keep
yeah.
hunting.
Yeah, he didn't mule
It's
kick,
November
he didn't
16th.
do
Just keep
anything.
hunting.
It's 9 o'clock. Yeah, keep going.
Yeah, so same exact path. They're both clearly following a
That hot
doe,
doe, yeah.
and so the same exact path. And that's why I'm like, I get my second chance. Unbelievable! How often do you get a second chance?
Is this one smaller or bigger?
This one's smaller, but I didn't care. I was like, it's a buck. It ended up being a 6-point, but the other one was bigger. But I was like, oh well, like at least I get a second chance, right? So same exact shot. Meh, take the shot.
Exact
takes
same
off,
spot.
Takes
Like,
off.
Same standing
Literally the
position.
same spot.
Yeah.
Goes running off the other way, lose sight of him, and I'm like,
I missed
did
again.
I miss again? I'm looking at the gun, like, now I'm just sitting there, just like, I'm 100% done now. Like, there's zero chance I'm hunting ever again in my life. And so Dad, I think we waited another 30 minutes or an hour, and Dad came over, and we systematically tracked the first one and then the second one. They were both down. I was just like,
Just
now I'm-
clobbered them.
now
Double
I'm-
lunged them.
yeah, now,
Both of them.
So now I'm feeling stupid. Like, all the emotion was like happy, but also like, what an idiot you are. You had no clue what you were doing, But so then I'm, by the end of the day, I've got 2 deers, and I'm grinning with 2 of them. Like, oh, this is great. Like, best story of my life. May never top that kind of like 2 in 1 day thing, but yeah, so like then I'm flying high, another year or two goes by but so the pressure wasn't as bad, going into the prior seasons as it used to be, because I'm like, okay, now I'm kind of like starting to like get some under my belt, but
the theme seems to become like, holy shit, Al. like every time, like no matter how the story ends, he gets a photo or he's there and you walk up and it's like, holy shit, Al. Like that's like that seems to be the arising theme for me.
Yeah. So yeah, so like anyways, yeah, it's a cool story because
you need to go listen to that one because there's a lot more detail that was involved. It was one of the best podcasts I remember doing.
Yeah.
Just because of it was fresh and it was the roller coaster.
And it was a roller coaster of like as deer hunting is.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Anybody who's been through that or has shot a deer and you've had you all have doubts, even if you feel like you clobbered him and you're like, well, what if I didn't? What if it happens to everybody?
It really does.
And the fact that the first 3 deer you had shot before that all dropped right there.
Oh yeah.
Like that set up that roller coaster of events for you.
Yeah. And so and part of the reason why I like telling it is because I'm not some, know-it-all hunter that, I'm like anybody that goes out and puts in the time can do this thing. And like, I don't want people to feel like bad about not knowing what they're doing because I didn't know what I was doing either.
And you smoked both of them, right?
Oh, 100%.
Double long, right behind the shoulder, open sights, shotgun, like clobbered them.
Yeah, and it was the same exact spot on both deer. It was like dead nuts. Nothing wrong with the gun, nothing wrong with me, but I just totally doubted it.
Yep.
So
I couldn't believe it quite literally when you sent me the photos because I wasn't there that morning. I was actually hunting your woods, and
yeah.
Crazy. Anyway,
so then we fast forward to I kind of totally switched gears mostly because of you to bow hunting. I was not that I'm like
this is exactly that's
what I wanted to say because this is all prior to you ever picking up a bow.
Yeah, and it's not like I feel like gun hunting isn't fun or whatever or not as pure or whatever, but at that point you were like, hey, you should try shooting bow and arrow, like, and I was like, I'm kind of broke. I don't know if I've got that much money to put into it. You're like, recurves, traditional bows can be less expensive than like a compound or whatever. So I got into like a $400, $500 setup and started shooting a lot. And
I don't know if that was why. I think that's not how I remember it. I remember I had just got a traditional bow and I did a podcast with Rob Gillo over at Shoepex Sporting
That's
Goods.
where I went to go get my bow from. Yeah.
Shout out to Shoepex. You should go down there and tell them Painted Arrow sent you. They will take care of you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, you got a really nice traditional bow. That was like really nice. I mean, it was like a really nice traditional bow, and you got it set up. And I just remember you thinking that you told me like you wanted to do it the most pure way. That's what you told me.
Well, I also really enjoyed shooting it that way because I'd never done that before, and so you had one too. So I shot yours before I ever got mine. But I was like, yeah, this is fun and more of a challenge and all that stuff. And I was like, yeah, I like the idea of the whole thing.
Do you feel like that was the next challenge for you? Like, do you think at any level you started to think, man, like, I don't want to say that you thought you were mastering gun hunting, but
I definitely did not.
You had gotten some kills under your belt. You'd had some success, and it was kind of like, was it like, what's next? What else can I do here?
It was kind of that.
Because I think for both of you, it's interesting that like bow hunting wasn't in your family. Like you talk a lot about how hunting was this family thing. We all 14 of us went out on Thanksgiving and we all went hunting. But at some point, like Nate started bow hunting and then Al started bow hunting. Yeah. Now your dad bow hunts. Like at some point that happened.
Yeah. Some of it was the challenge. I mean, I used to make jokes. I'm a big golfer. So it was always, Nate was like, oh, I'm a hunter. And I'm like, I'm a golfer. And I would make jokes like, well, how about this? I'll take my wedge and you take your bow and we'll see who can hit that at 50 yards, Like that was like, so it was kind of like a natural progression of like being a golfer is kind of like being a marksman, I guess. And I've always enjoyed shooting guns more so than hunting up, for most of my life. And so I was kind of like, yeah, this is like a new challenge. It was almost like the beat, can you hit the target with no sights kind of thing. It's like instinctual shooting is what I was trying to
That's
do.
really interesting.
So I was like,
Al
like
is a
this.
big golfer. I've never heard it put like that because usually hunters and golfers aren't like, they don't like.
I don't know.
It works
I know
out.
some hunters who are really big golfers, but it's not always like that.
It's like marksmanship. There's definitely especially with traditional bow hunting, you are one with your I mean, you have to be. And
Yeah.
like, it's the same thing with you said, like a wedge or like when you're putting, whatever. You are like quite literally relying on muscle memory and repetition to get you to be successful. I like that.
And I
heard
way downplayed the difference in technology between a compound and in a recurve. Because at first I was like, well, if you're going to get a bow, just get a recurve because it is the most pure, and I think it's more fun to shoot than a compound.
100%, I agree.
And all those things, I'm like, and plus, like, what you're losing 10 yards of effective range. I was so wrong. But that's what I thought at the beginning. Like, why would you ever even get a compound?
So you get the trad bow.
Yeah.
You kind of invest a little bit. You get the target.
Mm-hmm.
Now you get a chunk of the season that you never had.
And that was my favorite part. So golfers in the South, golf is year round. This weather's good, but in Michigan, it's not. So it was actually kind of like perfect for me because I pretty much stopped golfing. There's a big tournament I play in basically the first weekend of October every year. But other than that, I'm like, okay, cool, great. Now I can switch from golf over to hunting, and
it's perfect.
I love that.
So I miss opening day of bow, but that's, I guess that's not even really the best time anyways. Probably more late bow season is the prime time, but so it works out great for me. And so I went over to, and I'm also hunting like a pretty highly pressured small parcel. I don't have any land, so I was using a small piece behind my father-in-law's golf course. And so that's been a challenge as well. So I was trying to recurve hunt a really tiny parcel that I don't have any cameras on or a food plot or any of those things. And I went, how hard could it be? I'll throw up a ladder stand and I ended up being totally wrong, but right that first year because there was this monster that came out, but it was directly below me. So I'm a new recurve hunter. Don't have anything really set up. I get lucky that this huge buck, probably I didn't count him, but I thought he was like a 10 or a 12 point and just massive. And so I get the worst buck fever of my life, and it's a straight down shot, and I panic and go, I better take this while he's here, when I probably should have waited till I maybe got a better shot.
Yeah.
So I take the shot and I shoulder him, and he's totally fine.
But what's interesting about this is like I'm hunting this again. We were hunting the same night, and like I'm thinking like this is the real but sad truth. Like I'm thinking like if my brother shoots a buck with a bow of a trad bow, his first year out with a trad bow, after like so many things have to go right. Not to even mention like you've never practiced shooting a traditional bow at an elevated stand.
Never once.
And
Always
like all
flat.
these, like it just almost near impossible. And I get this call. I'll never forget it. And he's like, you're just like, I just shot at a monster buck and I think I hit it. And I was like, what? I was like, what are you talking about? Like with your trad bow? Like you're hunting right now?
Yeah.
And I remember like,
Because you didn't even know he was hunting that night.
I was hunting an hour and a half across the state, like way down, wait.
But I remember being a friend of yours, like when you started getting into archery, and I was like, Al put a food plot in. Like Al's hunting right now. Like you weren't necessarily always keeping him up to date. Like, hey, I'm going hunting today. But then it was like, dude, I just shot a big buck, and you're like, you're hunting right now?
I was blown away because specifically the trad bow portion of it at an elevated stand in a 10-foot little acre spot behind a golf. Like I was just like, what?
Yeah.
And so I literally drove across the state that night
For nothing. It turned out.
No, but like,
But you were excited.
But
about
I think that was such a good moment for us as brothers, as well as you as a hunter. Like, like that. I mean, like you learn. That's how you learn. Unfortunately, like that deer came in. What was that? 7 yards?
Yeah, probably less. Like right below me.
Monster buck. And I think
I could have. I was jokingly like I could have like jumped down with a knife and had a better chance.
That's incredible that he got that close and you were actually able to get a shot off and that you actually connected
hit
with
him
and you had blood on the arrow. Like all those things to me were crazy.
So
like
I have to say, by the way, I think you had a mixture of emotions. I think you were like proud and maybe even like proud and also like maybe a little bit jealous and also maybe a little bit like disappointed at the same time. As you're like, dude, this is an awful shot. And so you said something to me in the midst of me having my emotions and you having some of those emotions. And I didn't want to hear it, but you were right. It was something along the lines of, it's probably good you didn't get that because then your head just would have been all swollen, And
Did I say that?
And
good. I'm glad I said that.
And you may have used a different word, but that's what I interpreted it as. And you're right, though, because I probably would have. So I had a couple of good bucks with my gun. If I would have got that monster with my bow first season out, I probably wouldn't have hunted for a couple of years. And I'm like, yeah, dude, this is easy. This is,
Well, was this pre-Holy Spirit? Do you remember?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It was?
Right.
So if I put myself in your position, like you're hunting hard, you're putting in all of the work year round, blah, 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 blah. Your brother buys a trad bow, goes out on a 10-acre parcel behind a golf course. Had he shot a giant buck with a trad bow at 7 yards behind a golf course, there's no way you wouldn't have been, and maybe jealous isn't the right word, but you would have been like, what?
And that's what I was getting at is you're like, dude, like, this isn't supposed to be this easy. Like, it was almost like, what?
Yeah, I don't think jealousy is the right word.
It's
I
not,
really don't.
but you would have been, it would have been like, what? Like,
Yeah.
Mind blowing.
yes.
Mind blowing.
And incredulous, I think, is a good word for it. Like,
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah, that was 100% what it was.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there like, yeah,
Like
I
he
deserve
wouldn't, obviously he'd be happy for you as his brother.
that. Oh, yeah.
But it's like, what? Like
Yeah.
that's what it would have been like.
Yeah.
It's there's Alex and I are very competitive. Always have.
Of
been.
course.
We're a year and 10 days apart in age.
Yeah.
So like we grew up quite literally sharing a room. Like, I mean, we used to like fist fight. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
We have that kind of relationship.
Yeah, we did.
We did. No, I'm not even kidding.
I know.
He got me in trouble one time for faking crying in a different room of the house. And so my mom comes storming down the hallway and goes, you know, what happened? And he hit me. And I'm like, not even in the same room as him. And so she bends me over. Don't you hit your brother. And I'm like, and I'm looking across the hallway at him, and he's just like, that was
God.
that was Nate growing up.
Oh,
So maybe it would have been better if I would have shot that buck. Maybe you needed that. Maybe you needed that. It would have been for you, not for me.
So
anyway,
let me get us back on track.
get
here.
us back on track.
So the trad bow, you get into the trad bow.
Yeah.
We had tracked that deer. We had come to the conclusion
Yeah,
there was very little penetration.
You wiped my tear and you said,
This is
"This is
hunting.
good for you. Go shoot your bow more." And I was like, "Okay." And
Yeah.
it was bittersweet. It was like, man, this could have been such a cool story.
Was the arrow broken off?
No, it was not.
So it came straight back out, and you knew he had maybe that much penetration.
We had found the arrow like 20 yards from where point of impact was. We trailed it. We looked everywhere for the deer. I mean, it wasn't like a quick little thing. Like, we looked everywhere for it. But yeah, like you had gotten like at that point though, like if you recap that after that hunt, you'd really gotten almost the bug. Like it was like, okay, this is like a dip. You could
gave you a
see
taste.
you could see the potential for that earlier portion of the year, and like getting close is fun. Getting close to deer that are really big is like really fun. And I was like looking back now and just kind of after we're talking about this, like that honestly probably was one of the coolest things that could have happened for your bow hunting career because now you really like embraced it and you wanted to improve and you started investing, and then this is kind of when we get to the point where I kind of gave you I didn't give you. I sold you.
It was a good deal. I mean, for sure.
No. Like, but I sold you my bow.
Yeah.
It was a PSE NXT Evo 35. So it was like a really good size bow for bigger guys, and he and I are basically the same height, wingspan,
Yeah, the
almost
same in every
identical.
way. 6-pack and thin as a rail.
No, but we really are. Like we have like almost identical wingspan.
Wingspan though, yeah, for sure.
And we're almost like exactly the same height, like exactly. Anyway, you get this NXT Evo 35. Talk to me. I want to dive into this year's hunt.
Yeah.
That you were filming on the Mag Pro, and I got the video on here, and I want to watch it.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about the recovery experience, because it kind of tailors into our product, obviously, but it's more of it's a huge learning point to get your first deer with a bow. And I think that our listeners will definitely benefit from hearing this, because not everybody hunts.
Yeah.
I think there's people that listen to this that don't necessarily hunt.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about that. Talk to me about this year with the bow in your first year.
Yeah. And I do want to say one more thing about my first like bow hunting season, like other than the disappointing part of not getting that giant. It really like opened my eyes to bow hunting for some other selfish reasons, because I like my beauty sleep, and So I also like warm weather. I don't like freezing my butt off. Because that was always like the number one thing of like I don't want to hunt in the late season because I just get too cold and it's not even fun.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, okay, so I could sit comfortably with much less clothing on in October, and I don't have to get up as early, especially before the time change.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is amazing. Like, so I was like, at that part, really, it was like, yeah, this is way better. Why do we even gun hunt in November? This is stupid,
Interesting.
right? So my mind totally flipped on that. So
How many seasons had you bow hunted before you switched to the compound bow for this season? Was it 2 or 3?
it was 2 or 3. I can't remember exactly. I want to say it was 2.
Okay.
Um,
So let's just say this would be your third year bow hunting.
Yeah.
And
So
you're going into it with the PSE.
yeah, it's 3 or 4 total. But yeah, probably 3. And so I start shooting the compound bow, and I'm not trying to minimize like the importance of shooting your bow often, but compared to the recurve, I was like, my dispersions, if I didn't touch it for a week, were like, it's way simpler, I guess, to make tweaks. And to get it perfect is a huge challenge, right? But to get, my mindset with the recurve was like, I had my deer decoy, and it's like, if I can hit that, I'm good, and I'm trying to get, groupings like that big. And I'm like, well, with a compound with much less practice, I'm like, that big, well, that's a dead deer. Like, that was my mindset. It was like, this is important to shoot, but this technology is like, well, I'm even more deadly. This is great.
You have a sight.
I was confident,
Most people do not start with a trad bow.
Yeah.
Most people go the other direction. They go gun, crossbow, you know what I mean? Compound, trad bow. Like it's like your trajectory was interesting.
Unique.
Yeah, I've shot my recurve like hardly at all since I got the compound, and I want to try to get back to that. But yeah, so in comparison, I was like, I'm very confident, and this is fun. And my mindset also kind of changed, which makes hunting more fun, where it's like, now if I just go out and I see deer, I'm having fun. It's not as much I have to get one to have fun. So it took me a while, though. Probably took me, 8 to 10 years of hunting to get there. And I'm talking about my adult life since the first deer I got till now. Like, now that's more fun for me. So I still get, bummed if I go out and see nothing, as I'm sure most people do. But if I'm seeing anything, even if it's not a shooter, I'm like, yeah, this is part of the thing. And I almost kind of enjoy like watching them like walk through my food plot, even if I'm not going to shoot them. And I'm just like, I might even take pictures of them and send them to Abby and stuff. Like, I enjoy it, like that part of it more now. And so, yeah, so I go a ton in October with my compound bow. This year, and right at the golf course mostly. And I see some things, but
How much
mostly,
is a ton, like roughly?
For me, I probably went 15 times in October, something like that.
Wow. 15 hunts.
Mostly weekends. I took a couple days here and there off, like a Friday or something.
Yeah,
But,
cool.
or I might like peace out early on a Friday and go.
He was hunting the cold front this year.
Yeah.
Like
he
was
But I
was
he was
paying
in there in
attention.
really good times. Like he was in there hunting like the right times.
Oh yeah,
You-
sorry. I also have been. So we did a food plot last season together, and we got it in pretty late, and that was the first time I had done that, and I saw a lot of action of deer coming to it, and so then this season I did it on my own in the summer with help from my father-in-law has a bunch of golf course equipment, so he was like, yeah, you can use whatever you want. So like that 100% helped. So, but I go back there and I, redid the food plot in the same spot and moved my stand. I did a couple things and put up a new camera. And so I was trying to get more, tech
hunting deer,
techie, and
That's so cool.
And I love the cell cams. It's so sweet that you can just get it right away. Because I don't like having to go in to get the cards. I pretty much would just do it once a season at that point. But anyway, so I like that a lot better. So I went and did my food plot, and I think that shocked you as well. You're like, wait, you did that on your own?
You sent me a photo of a luscious plot, and I was like,
When did you plant that? I remember. He was blown away and like called me like, Al planted a food plot.
I didn't know you bought seed. I didn't know you had a tractor. I didn't know you. When did you do this?
Yeah, you were like, well, you put me onto that seed that's called Big Sexy.
Yeah,
and
domain.
And I remembered that. So, anyways, it was like,
I
you're like, well, what'd you
love
put
that.
in? And I was like, Big Sexy. What else? And you're like, oh, okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I think you were waiting for the call for like, hey, can you come help me out? And instead, you just got the, hey, it's done. And you're, huh?
That's exactly right. That's exactly what he was waiting for. Was like, hey, can you come help me?
Yeah. So anyways, so that's good. So that leads up to the season, and I go a lot for me, 10 to 15 times. And I see some things, but none were like shooters. And now my new barometer is kind of like, okay, I want to get an 8-pointer above because that's along what my biggest is. My biggest isn't like a total giant. Like there's room for bigger.
It's probably
for sure.
115 or 120 inch deer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so it's a good deer, and I'm like, but that's kind of like, okay, I'm looking for that or bigger, kind of. If it's a buck, and then I'm willing to shoot does. And at this point in my life, I still haven't gotten any deer with any sort of bow. So I was kind of like, okay, if it's a doe, if it's a shooter doe, or an 8-point buck or bigger, okay, I'll do it. And so I see a lot of deer, but I don't see what I'm looking for.
Yeah,
a lot of spikes, a lot of button bucks, small does, and I kept remembering my father-in-law. You shooting dogs? So I was like, I can't shoot that one. I can't.
Pause real quick. I'm sorry, I hate to do this, but there's a lot of beauty in what you just said. Like let's rewind it very quickly back to the very beginning when it was like it's brown, it's down, the whole family on a bucket in a thicket, and now Al is planting food plots, hanging stands, doing all of this on your own, sitting there letting deer walk through your food plot. That's not really what I'm looking for. Like that's growth. Like that's incredible.
It really is.
Yeah, and part of it is like I said, like now that's fun to me. Where before I'd have been like, I only got this hunt and maybe one other day, so I better do it.
I feel like there was a very obvious time in my memory too, like when I started just seeing a lot of deer, like that became fun to me.
Yeah,
like when you're a kid,
mm-hmm.
and even into teenage years, like if you really just want to get one like that, like what else are we out here for?
Mm-hmm.
But there was a very obvious time in my mind when it was like, man, if I'm just seeing deer, like this is a lot of fun.
Yeah. I guess my only regret would be like I wish I would have started that journey when I was younger, so like I could have had that growth, and then when I was a young man, I would have already been to this point. So maybe it took me a little longer, but yeah. So anyways, yeah, I'm here now, and
deer walking through the food plot all season.
Deer walking through, and I really my two big goals this year were because I hadn't got anything since the year I got 2 in a row in Eden Rapids, and so my big goal was I want to break the mold of only shooting deer out of that same stand at Eden Rapids.
Yeah.
So I made this joke and you thought it was absolutely atrocious, or this comparison, because it's nowhere near the same. But so I said, I'm kind of like Tom Brady, and there's zero comparison between me and Tom Brady. Other than he got all of his rings in New England. And so the people were like, well, can he do it elsewhere, or was it just Bill? Right. So for me, it's like you got all of your deer, but 1 or 2, most of your deer are in this same stand in Eden Rapids. Can you do it anywhere else?
Yeah.
And so that was kind of like my goal is, okay, I got to do it. I want to get one at the golf course because I'm on my food plot, and I want to get one with a bow. Those are my 2 goals. Well, I got one of the 2. I got the bow kill finally, but still in the same stand in Eden Rapids. so we got some room.
It's a hot stand.
It's a hot stand. I literally, every time I go out there, I see huge deer. Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
I felt really bad the year I got 2 because I think you had literally hunted that stand like 5 to 10 times.
Yeah, I'll go listen to that podcast that Trav's gonna list.
I forgot about that. Yeah, and you were like, I'd been hunting that.
Yeah,
I remember that.
We got together the night before opening day, if you remember, and we watched Escanaba in the moonlight, as we try to do most years. And there's that huge storm. You remember that year?
Yep, the 15th. We didn't go out.
So we didn't even go out because it was like tornado weather. It was like bad.
It was the 16th.
Yeah,
wasn't it really warm too?
It was a funky day. It was it was like we didn't go. I remember
that year, everybody's opening day was the 16th. I remember.
Yeah.
So anyways, So I felt really bad because I was like, other than that one funky day, Nate was in this stand and didn't
hunted it hard. Yeah,
didn't see that deer.
Didn't see any antler.
And I come out and I remember you were like the same kind of thing as what we were talking about, like incredulous or whatever, not jealous, but whatever that word needs to be. And you were just like, I hunted that stand, dude. Like, I'm happy for you, but like, what the heck? That's my deer. That's my deer. It's kind of like a little bit of the vibe. I was like, yeah, you're right, but he's mine now. So, anyways, I hunt the crap out of the golf course. I'll get to the point. And so I go.
You're getting to how you got to that stand.
Yeah, first time this year going out to that old reliable stand in Eden Rapids with Dad, and I was even like, Dad, I promise you, if you sit in that stand, like both you and I think both share that we like really wanted Dad to get one. And
there was a huge theme of this
well,
podcast.
Yeah, well documented.
Yeah. And so I was like, Dad, why don't you take that stand? Because I have great luck in that stand. And he goes, well, I always see a bunch of deer in the other one. And I was like, okay, and sure enough, like, so I sent you 2 videos. One of them was, I probably saw 9 deer before I could even like see the deer. Like they were like all around me in the pitch black. Yeah. So the other deer comes out at like 7:50 something. And he comes just screaming through like doe, and I hear this doe from a while off, like and like and running through.
You were in them. You were rutting.
in 'em.
They were rutting.
Hard, and so then this big buck comes flying behind her. And
What
like,
time's this?
This was at just before 8.
Big buck.
Big buck.
Is this the right one, Al?
Is this the first one?
I don't know.
Yeah, this is the first one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that
Holy
guy,
cow.
and I'm like, whoa, and
Zoom in there once. Can you?
and
I haven't seen that.
So I'm sure you're probably going to link this video, but so I'll kind of walk you through it a little bit. So this was the 3rd time I saw that deer, and I'm sure everyone's thinking, well, why didn't you shoot it, idiot? Well,
it's running back and forth.
He screams through from one angle. I'm like, whoa, and didn't even have time to like get my bow up. And so then I'm like,
so where did he come from?
Was this the third, this specific clip, was this the third
he basically
sighting of
ran
him?
in like a big circle. They came from the right, like from where he came this time. And then they went all the way around. I saw him come out the other tree line behind those trees down into their bedding area. So he made this big loop. So this is the 3rd time I saw him coming back through again.
So he's just
running.
chasing.
And the doe comes through, and then he comes through. And so that time there, like I'm at full draw, like with my Mag Pro going. That's what the video was taken on. And I'm like, I'm just like all but yelling at him. And Nathan was like, you literally should have yelled at him. Because I'm like, mark, like as loud as I can. And he goes, why didn't you yell at him? Yeah. And I'm like, I didn't even know you should yell at deer. Like, I guess I will, And
you mean I can do that?
I'm like, yeah, like speak English to it. Yeah, that'll do it.
Hey, stop.
Hey, deer. I'll probably do that next year because now I know, right? Still learning, still an inexperienced hunter. So he comes streaming through, and I'm like, hey, everything but hey, and he wouldn't stop. So I was like, oh man, but like I'm not like dejected, like I missed my opportunity. I was like, he's probably coming back again. I just gotta wait, Now I'm ready.
So that clip was the 3rd time he came by.
Yeah.
Holy cow!
And it was all really quick because he was just constantly running. It wasn't like
you saw the doe that he was chasing too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So you had a hot doe.
So I let the doe go by me, and then he comes screaming through, and that's when I got that video. So anyways, I'm like, I'm in him. That deer was big. I'm juiced. And then a very similar thing happens with this other deer, but he came from the same way that I shot the 2 in the same day, came from that left side of me thicket, and just all of a sudden comes out, and he's following this doe. And I'm like, oh.
Same doe?
Probably a different doe. Could be the same. But and it was clearly a smaller deer. But I'm like, one of my goals is to get one with my bow, so I'm not gonna be as picky with it. So he ended up being a 7-point, but he wasn't.
Is that him right
a
there?
monster. That's the doe.
Okay, we're seeing this doe.
Yeah.
So he's coming into her, and I'm like, okay, so I got all this time, 50 yards of him walking to go follow her. Right so he's coming down this hill, and he's quartering to me. So I used to not think about all that, but now I'm like, okay, so I got to make a shot kind of more forward. Like I know all this in my head.
Again, growth. Like he's coming down the hill, he's quartering to me. Like you're thinking through all.
He's filming on the Mag Pro.
And so,
you just drew, right?
So I'm at full draw right there, yeah. And he's looking at me, but he's looking right at me. So I'm like, I got to wait for him to turn some more. So he kind of took a couple steps forward and kind of barely slightly opens up a little bit.
Al, you're pretty patient.
And that's when I let it rip here. Right about here is when he kind of opens
Gives
up
you
a little bit.
more, yeah. Lighted knocks, the whole deal, Al.
Lighted knocks, dude, love them. So I saw it was a pass-through because it was...
Let's go back, though.
The arrow was in the ground, and I could see the lighted knock. I was like, oh, so it's a pass-through.
Yeah.
At first I thought I missed again. I was like, no, it was a pass-through. I definitely hit him. I heard it, And I'm rewatching the footage. Nope, I definitely hit him.
So I remember watching this and being like...
So I send you the video, and the text comes through so grainy, so it wasn't as good of footage as what I was seeing, but... I'm like, oh no, it was back.
So when you slow that video down,
yeah,
deer's quartering to. The arrow looked like it would have exited through the back legs, like in the middle of the back legs.
And it did.
So tell me about, like, keep going, like, with the story.
So,
like, right then and there, you make that shot.
What happens next?
I texted you and Dad. You called me almost right away. Like you were hunting too, probably at your house, or maybe it was at Devin's. I'm not sure, but and you're like, send me the video. So I did, and you're looking at it, and like it's hard to see because when it comes through on text, it's really bad. You're like, we both are looking at it and calling each other back, and like, I'm pretty sure that's back. So we got to give it a bunch of time. So I basically sat there patiently. And I was kind of thinking to myself, well, what if that big one comes out again? Like, what do I do? And you're like, no, like, we don't even think, and I know how hard, it can be to track deer. And you had some stories of like,
I told you don't shoot the other buck.
You told me like, basically you said, if you need to shoot, I'm like, what if another one comes through? And you were like, I wouldn't, because we don't even know if we're going to track, get this one. And I
think I said something along the lines of, it has to be a home run. That's what I think what I probably said.
Were you using fixed blade or mechanical broadheads?
Fixed.
Bee stingers.
Like
Are those big?
They're the ones that I shot the Holy Spirit with.
It's pretty big.
So anyways, yeah. So I'm like, I know I hit it, and I'm kind of excited, but I'm also like, I know many stories of you and some other people that like have hit deer, but you can't recover them. And so I was still kind of like, but like, I'm not like sit back, relax, like I did it, job done. I was sitting back like, oh man, like we got to go find this thing now. And I did a really bad job of like keeping my bow arm up to like videotape it running away. So I was watching it, but I wasn't, my camera was down, Yeah. And so I was like, darn it, now I can't like see where it, entered, but I kind of remember where it entered. So we waited a long time. We got out of the woods a couple hours later, went and had lunch, and it had been probably 4 or 5 hours.
I remember looking at the video over and over and over and over again. Yeah. And it was like an hour and 40-minute drive for me.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking like, I don't think that they're gonna find it. I didn't feel like the shot was good. I thought you might have hit it in the guts, and I remember thinking like, there's gonna be no blood. And I said,
you're gonna need a dog.
You're gonna need a dog, and it ran right to the neighbor's property, and it was gonna be this whole thing. Yeah. And I know how that goes, and I'm like, I'm gonna just let you and Dad try and do it. You know what I mean? But I really wanted to be there.
Well, you had said something to both of us, like, if you guys get anything, call me, because we'll bring Trav, we'll do the recovery, we'll do the whole thing, yeah. And I was like, so I called you, and said like, hey, I don't, sent you the video, all that.
Miss.
We both were like, I don't know for sure. We'll see if we can find it. So we waited a number of hours. We went back out after lunch to go find it. We found it like right away. We were like 5 minutes. Like, am I gonna like drag you through the whole thing? We creeped around. Like, no, like we did creep around, and then like, oh, it's right there.
Okay. Where was he? Like, I mean, how far from where you shot him did he go?
Not even 100.
Like,
dude, he
show the photos to Dev.
I'm interested.
Exit and all that.
There's a good chance you clipped an artery or something.
Oh yeah.
With it being that far back.
Show the exit though.
If he didn't go that far.
I think I have. You told me you hit lung, and I'm like, there's no way.
I could see maybe liver through the back of the guts, but
no. Show the photo. It's incredible. I couldn't make sense of it.
So here's like him laying on the ground. So it was like in the middle of the body ish on the entry, and it did go out through his legs, but it sliced his back like. Calf,
so that's entry.
Like his back.
That's entry side.
Hammy, I guess I should say. His leg.
Oh, that's a sweet deer. Oh, do you have something to grab too?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so that's the entry again. It's really small.
Yep.
Like the fur kind of covers it up, but and then here's the exit. So it clips his leg, like it slices his muscle.
Hey,
there he is. There he is, right there.
Look at that.
Yeah.
First bow buck.
So, yeah.
When you field dressed him, what'd you find?
So
was there a lot of blood in there?
Oh yeah, because it was.
I feel like it had to clip an artery or something.
It clipped. So there's another picture or video of the gut pile, which is kind of gross, but it like clipped multiple things and bled like crazy.
Isn't that interesting photo?
That's okay.
Looked like a lung and a liver to me.
That's a lung and a liver, but I have no idea how you would have gotten lung.
How did he hit the lung?
Somebody said this to me recently. You could have sliced that with your knife when you were up in there going crazy.
This was like totally intact. Like never hit it with a knife.
That's the lung.
I know.
Yeah. So anyways,
doesn't make any sense.
There's a bunch of internal blood, basically. So like it was like kind of crazy. There was no blood leading to the body. 0 blood. With the fact that we saw him was the only reason that we found him.
So you just remembered where he went, walked in where you thought he went, and was like, "Oh, he's right there."
The way this property lays out, it's like there's a little chunk of it's like 2 acres of like swamp.
Yeah.
It's like that's where the deer went. And they walked in, it was right there.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like a hard trail. I mean, you had to walk you'd walk right through this little area, and like you either see it or you didn't. So.
Yeah. So we knew there was like a little bedding area, and I didn't know how far he got, and so we basically went like pincher movement around each side. Big Star Wars guy, so I gave Dad the high ground, and and so he could see the deer like almost immediately, like because he goes down that trail, and then there's right where the power line goes down to that bedding area. He's at the top of that hill, and he's like, "Yep, see him right there." Like we were on the phone, like whispering, like, "Okay, like I'm gonna go over here." Like, cool. And I could see him. You know, we were kind of like creeping at the same speed. And then he goes, "Oh, I see him. He's right there." You know, I'm like, "Oh, okay." And I'm on the other side, so I can't see him at all. And
is he dead?
I was like, "Shoot him again." It had been dead for hours, but
that's awesome.
But anyways,
I was really upset, and I told my wife, I'm like, I still might go. Like after you guys were sitting there gutting them, like the whole thing would have been done by the time I got there.
and yeah, for sure.
But
So anyways, I was stoked. This was not as big as that first one on the video I sent you.
no, don't underplay this. This is a huge accomplishment as a first bow buck. I mean, it really is.
On film.
On film. That was another thing was I made a thing of my goals I didn't mention was I'm not shooting one unless I get it on camera. So like if there's one that like startles me, I'm just not going to even do it. Like if I can't get the camera on it, I'm not doing it.
Really?
Yeah. So I also want to say to people that might be watching that might be hesitant to use the product because they're like, well, there's just one extra thing I got to worry about before I take my shot. I just didn't want to deal with it. Smack the thing on there. It takes like 2 seconds. I've literally, of all the opportunities I've had this year, not one time was there not enough time to put it on there.
That's a really good point. I've been in situations this year where I like tried to convince myself like I don't have time, like, or not. I shouldn't say I tried to convince myself, but I'd be like I'd reach for my bow like I'm gonna do the thing without it, and then I'm like, what am I doing? Like,
you'd be so like now knowing what we all know, like it's you are so upset if you don't because it's so much fun and the recovery.
It's a tool.
Yeah,
like
the recovery aspect of it is like it's like you would be absolutely upset.
Like, think about the whole situation. You hitting that deer, you would have never had anything to send him. I hit one. I don't know if I hit it good. Not sure. Like in this specific instance, like you probably would have come out. You would have found the deer, but it doesn't always work out that way. And like within moments of you shooting that deer, he had footage of it on his phone.
And it was a miracle
in a different county
that it somehow had no damage to the guts, which was crazy because it did exit out between the legs.
You shot like a boomerang arrow. It like came around, went through the lungs, went back out, came.
But it also is a tool. So it gave us, okay, well, with the information we think we have, we need to wait this much time, do all this stuff.
That's it.
So I was like, okay, cool. And
you have no idea when that deer died.
No clue.
If you would have tracked him right away, you could have jumped him right out of that swamp and never seen him and you said there was no blood even leading into where he was.
0. There was a little bit of blood, at impact, and I found the arrow, and there was some blood on the arrow, but then there was 0 blood going to where he was.
Yeah, real quick. Also, I think that it's important because like from my perspective, I'm not a hunter. We're gonna work on it next year.
It's a work in progress.
It's a work in progress, but I've always been surprised at when I watched your footage, because now I've watched a lot of footage of you guys on the Mag Pro, how much you guys can get away with. Like even so your buck that you shot right out here, out in the backyard.
Yeah.
You're literally, I'm watching the footage and you're popping that sucker on and the buck's there. And I'm like, how is Dad doing this? But for new hunters or for inexperienced hunters, I think that you guys can all three speak to the fact that you can get that phone on there. It's not like that little the impact of that phone going onto the Mag Pro is not scaring off any deer.
Right.
You're not flagging any deer. You've done this enough times to know that this is a product that you can use in the field at a short moment's notice without spooking your game.
100%.
And I think you've said it a specific way a couple times that makes a lot of sense to me. Like you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't use it. It's in your pocket and in the woods with you anyway.
High 4K.
If it's giving you any percentage chance, any higher percentage chance of recovering the deer, why would you not use it?
Yeah. And it really is quiet. Like, I mean, if you supply the power to
if you
smack
just
it,
slap it on, it'll make a sound. But if you go like this,
but like
it doesn't make any sound.
It's become second nature to me. And another thing, as a young hunter, I always thought like every tiny little movement will scare a deer.
Oh,
and
I still think that. That's what I've been so surprised about with you guys. I'm like,
well, grandpas teach you that. Like,
sometimes
like,
they
don't
do,
move. And you're like,
he went, yeah.
Can I breathe?
Yeah, like so it's weird. Like you don't want to be moving all around, but like it also isn't like you're just like this, like the whole time.
Well,
it's so interesting.
Grandpa used to have he would have you practice your okay, turn your head, but do it over the course of like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
You know, and
I
you're
remember
like,
that.
and you're like, and you're like trying to move your eyes ahead of your neck, and you're like, you know,
That's so true.
and then you finally get over, and then you're like, wow. So if it took me 30 seconds there, I had to go 30 seconds back to middle, and then 30 seconds back to the other side.
And it's a red squirrel.
Yeah,
exactly.
that's another thing you get better at is picking out squirrels. You're like, screw that squirrel, I'm not turning it. But anyways, all that being said, like I thought that at first too. I was like, as I've gotten more experience, I'm like, I used to be like, I need to get my bow up really, really slow and like take my time. And you're like, you already missed 10 seconds worth of this deer walking in front of you. I'm like, get the freaking bow up and get this thing on there. So for me, it's like, you got to do it the right way, but like you can do it quietly and slowly, but still get the thing up. Like you got to just go.
Yeah.
I feel like one thing you just learn from just being in the field a lot is being able to read deer's body language. Like you can look at a deer and kind of estimate what you're going to be able to get away with. Like if they're very alert coming in, looking
very
around.
Seasonal too.
For sure.
Does, like, this is a rut hunt. I mean,
exactly. Like they're zombies, right? I mean, like you said, you've had like with that 10 point, you could have jumped out of the tree on top of him. Like I don't remember when that was specifically in terms of the phase of the season. Like, but if he was just desperately seeking for a doe, like he's not creeping through the woods looking at the top of every tree looking for Al. Like
No.
Now does are different, and you know there's different phases of the season, but like you learn what you can get away with just from like watching a deer's body language in different times during the season, I think.
Yeah, and you get more comfortable with your equipment and stuff as well. So like you can keep your eye on the animal while you're raising your bow and putting your mag pro on. I'm not looking at it; I'm looking at the deer.
Right.
And if it starts to look at me, then I stop. You know, so it's like, but people that I remember I used to think that when it first came out, it's like, how do you even get that thing on there? Because like I used to think that I couldn't move my bow very fast. So I would I have a hard enough time just getting my bow into position, much less getting this on before I take my shot,
Yeah.
But it's, the more comfortable you get, it's really easy. It's really quiet. So, really happy to have that footage be, it's cool to have it to like remember it too, but it was cooler to be able to send it to you right away. Like, and be like, cool, like we can make a plan with it.
He just said it. Like we've said something like that before. It's cool to send footage to your buddy, but it's a lot cooler to recover the deer.
Yeah.
And you just literally said that.
Yeah. And so, so it was very anticlimactic tracking. It was like, okay, we found it in
there
5
he is.
minutes. There he is. Great. Hey, Nate, if you're coming here, don't come. Because we already found it.
I'm real proud. Like Devin kind of spelled it out multiple times, but like the progress, the growth.
Yeah.
The growth. It's so cool. Like, to have you, because I don't reciprocate this. I don't like go golfing, right? But like you're investing, it feels like in a hobby of mine, and it's fun for me to do with you. So that's, I mean, this is a big deal. This is a big deal for me because like it's a proud younger brother moment.
Yeah, man. It's probably a good thing that you don't love golf, because if you did, you'd probably get really good at it, and then I'd have to like get a new hobby. So
I don't think I'm ever gonna get really good at it. So don't worry.
So just stick with hunting, dude.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I know you already had Dad on the podcast, but I just have to say real quick that Dad had such a mega season for him. It kind of gave me like a new outlook on it too, of like, you can still do crazy, awesome record first things even when you're 60s, you know? And so like, as soon as I shot this deer, my first bow buck, like big story, like, dude, we got to get you on the podcast. And I was like, sure, if you want me to, I'll do it. And then Dad just totally trumped me twice in a row and totally leapfrogged me to the podcast. I just want to say that. So I'm like, all right.
Watch this, Al.
Yeah. And I had totally was like, you know, I don't need to be on the podcast. Dad's story was better anyways, you know? So I was like, yeah, that he earned it. That's good. And then you were like, so I was kind of shocked. You were like, hey, let's do this, you know.
He actually hasn't been on to share his second story. We've never, all three of us have shot a buck before November 15th, ever.
Yeah.
That's never happened.
Yep.
I'm not sure we've all three had a buck, period.
Yeah. But before
in bow season, yeah.
That's never, ever happened. So that's kind of a cool thing in 2023. That's a thing.
It's been cool to see Dad get to the point, because I think at first he probably did it more for you. Like, hey, this is time to bond and stuff. And I think he wanted to, but it wasn't like he would go and you would go with him. And this year, like, he went a lot of times with neither one of us. And
it's really cool for me to see you guys like taking it real seriously and like trying to, you know, put in a food plot and like go at the right times and put it up camera and like almost have a target. You know, it's hard to get to that point, and I'm still kind of learning it myself. But that's like the steps that you guys are taking. It's so cool. It's very fun.
I was really like, so don't forget too that the second deer that Dad got, like the monster, you had already gotten 2 deer that morning. And I was soft as a baby's bottom. I was kind of sick too. So I was kind of, have you ever worn like your balaclava and it's just full of snot from the morning hunt because you're sick? You're pounding cough drops.
Have I ever? Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm like, okay, so this is, I'm just like, I'm done today. I got to get home, whatever. I got work tomorrow. And Dad went without us anyways. He's like, I'm going to go anyways. And he got that deer. I was like, dude, that's freaking cool. I'm halfway home and I'm getting a phone call. Like, hey, I got this deer. And it was like, not even the one he was trying to get, the one that he was like, hey, I watched that one buck go into the swamp. I'm going to go get him. Totally right place, right time. Different deer completely comes through. It's just a great thing. So he had a mega season.
Well, I think we went all over the place on this one.
A little bit.
But I think that the key here, you said it, Deb. What's the theme to this, you think?
It's growth. Growth, and holy shit, Al.
Finally earned my first Pan Arrow mug.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah, no, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but it's just the trajectory's cool. Like if you rewind to where we started this story.
Yeah.
Like you're running across a field, shooting at a deer with open sights at 200 yards, going to get gloves out of the truck, sitting on a bucket in a thicket, and like cut to the next scene. You're shooting a buck with a bow on film. Yeah. Like it's different.
It's really cool.
So there's a lot of things in life that other people might like do better than you. So like maybe you hop on Instagram or something and see this guy Devin Cole shooting monster bucks all the time. And you could get like mad or jealous or down about it, but I'm not mad about it. I just want to get better. That's all. I just want to keep up,
I'm not mad about it. I just want to get better. Yeah. I love that.
So
I think we should end it right there. As a closing thought for me, if you guys want to have a closing thought, go for it. But again, I'm just really excited to like continue to grow. We're going to continue to do more different hunts in different places, but like with a bow, it's just fun. And I'm excited to see
it's the cheat
where
code
we
of hunting.
improve even from this. Like there's so much to learn. So
bow hunting is the absolute like most exciting part about hunting, in my opinion. And I haven't even gotten into like duck hunting or anything like that yet, but like bow hunting is the cheat code of like whitetail deer hunting. It's just the best part of the season.
Yeah, I love it. Anything, Dev?
I don't know, man. I don't know. The growth thing is just cool. Like I think that's why I love bow hunting, is that everybody gets to determine like what success is to them. And social media and media does a good job of trying to tell you what success is. Like you get all this pressure to like fill a tag and shoot a big buck. But if you're leveling up and trying to pursue achieving a goal that's bigger than what you did last year, like everybody gets to decide what that is for themselves. And I think that's really sweet.
Mm-hmm.
And you've been doing that for years, right? Like,
yeah.
You went from there to here. Like you went from shooting a doe with a shotgun to shooting a buck with your bow.
Yeah.
Right? Like how like younger Al would have just been praying for for this guy to walk by so you could shoot him with a shotgun.
100%.
And you killed him with a bow.
Yeah.
Primal.
It's pretty crazy.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as a wise man once said to me, all of your failures in the past to you watching, it's probably for a good reason. So just keep hunting and keep shooting your bow.
Keep hunting. Keep shooting your bow. Thanks for listening.
Use the
along,
macro.
guys.
See ya.
See you later.